Hello everybody and welcome. It's 8:30 here in Oxfordshire and I've got a couple of American friends who've been mad enough to come fly all the way to the UK to help me work on the Pantera. Now this is a car that I imported, went to Oklahoma to get, and 5 months later I had it back here in the UK. It was supposed to be a part finished project, but it turned out to be a lot more work than expected. As soon as it got here, we got the engine out. And we found that although it had some nice shiny new heads on it, the cylinders were actually lipped, so it needed a complete rebuild. The paintwork looked okay at first glance, and in theory it had been painted a few years back and never used since. But there turned out to be issues with that as well, so in the end, got the car completely repainted and in my favourite colour. That's all been done, but because it was a part finished project, we've had some real challenges. Anyway, these two lunatics, they're spending 3.5 days here to help me, so we'll go inside and see them, and I'll try and give you a little bit of a guide as to what we've been doing. First of all though, a big thank you to Squarespace for making this video possible. Whether you want to show off your collection of cars or have a business, with Squarespace's cutting edge design tools, anyone can build a bespoke website. It's so simple, I had this first page done in under 10 minutes. Start with Blueprint, Squarespace's AI enhanced builder, to get a custom website in just a few steps. Squarespace also offers a complete library of award-winning website templates, so no experience required. Get discovered fast with integrated SEO tools so you show up more often on search engines and bring in more of your ideal customers. You can even add Acuity Scheduling, a flexible scheduling software that allows you to get everything you need to manage appointments seamlessly, accept payments, send automatic reminders, and more. Even better, Squarespace are offering Number 27 viewers 10% off. So head to www.squarespace.com/number27 to purchase your website or domain using the code in the description box below. Now back to the car. Okay, so Mike that you see there, you know, because we saw him when I originally went to Oklahoma to get the car. He helped me source it and everything, and I think he obviously feels a bit obliged to help me.
What he's trying to say is that I'm the one to blame for this whole thing.
For this mess. No, it's all great. And then here we have John, who's under the car at the moment, who's utterly unconnected to me, and literally out of the goodness of his heart has come here to do this. And he... well, I don't know, both of them apparently really enjoy doing this, so I'm incredibly grateful. But let's have a look at where we are. There's a big list there. All the cooling pipes have to be added, the alternator, the starter, the water pump belts, pedal box, speedo cable, steering column, indicator stalk, carburetor, the electronics for the distributor, the gearbox linkage. The interior needs to be assembled, windscreen needs to be put on, the clutch has to be connected, and the hydraulics. And then the fan wire for the cooling, which is something else. You can see John's under there doing... hello, John.
Hello.
He's working on the clutch hydraulics. Mike is working on the carb there.
Throttle link, hooking up the throttle linkage, then we'll install the carburetor and hook up the throttle cable and hook up the fuel line, and etc., etc., etc.
But absolutely everything that we have tried to do, we've encountered issues. So the starter motor, I don't know where it is. It's there.
Yeah.
Okay, so the starter motor, you can see one of the terminals snapped off. Before that, the trigger wire terminal had also snapped off, and we soldered it back on. But this is such a POS that we've decided not to use it. We're going to try and use the original one that I had, which is a really good starter, but a bit more complicated to install. So far, what have we achieved? All the various coolant pipes are now fitted, as well as the heater pipes. The system was then filled and bled. So on the cooling side, we're ready to go. The alternator is also fitted, but the belt that I had is too big for this application, so we'll have to get another one. The clutch slave cylinder was connected up, the system filled with fluid, and hey, we have a working clutch. Next was the gear linkage mechanism. It was initially binding as we couldn't get the aftermarket guide to work. But we went back to the original, and that too is now working properly. While the guys were doing that, I have spent way too much time trying to fit that starter motor. So it's a really trick thing with reduction gears, so it's much better than the standard one which we were going to use, but it requires a lot more setup. So there's shims to space it out. the way the mount is rotated as well dictates the angle at which it hits the gear. Now we have done a bit of research, and actually it looks like Jim, although it wasn't mounted, had already set it up. But there was another problem. The studs that we had that go into the gearbox, they were just too short, and I didn't have anything that would fit. So luckily I found amongst my hoard of bolts these ones, which are the same pitch, thread and size. So I cut a couple of those down to get some replacement studs, and in the end that worked. But before that I had to grind a little bit of the lip of the frame down because it was just fouling by 2 or 3 millimeters. And for extra good measure, we've added another earth strap straight from the starter to the chassis. There was one earlier that I put from the gearbox to the chassis as well, but this is just a full belt and braces approach. So let's see if it works. That is brilliant. John and Mike then reconnected some of the basic controls. The steering column, the throttle pedal and the parking brake. All were challenging, as we come to expect from this car. The carb threw up a couple of challenges. First of all, the gasket that I had wasn't quite the right size and the butterflies were getting stuck in the holes. Secondly, the lever and the linkage to the throttle cable was touching down on the intake manifold. Both things were solved by buying a whole load of new gaskets and putting them one on top of each other to space it out. Fitting the windscreen was next. The stainless steel trim had unfortunately been painted black, so it had to be stripped back before we could get going. The seal went on easily. The steel trim was much more of a pain.
Trim just popped out.
At this point, we realised that the screen was never going to go in with the dash still in place, as the lip of the seal was just snagging on the edge of it. So we decided to unscrew it and move it back a couple of inches.
Oh shit! Came right out. Closed in. I'm very confident now.
And finally we've managed it and it's in, and this is really starting to feel almost like a real interior now. Okay, so there's still lots of wiring hanging about, but let me show you what it used to look like so you can understand why I'm so happy. This really is a marked improvement. And a particular shout out to John, because he fitted these surrounds, which are beautifully made things. They're normally made out of plastic. These are custom made because they're quite rare. I think they're from a Mark 1 Capri. And these are made out of aluminium beautifully, but very difficult to fit. Also, the center console is in place with all the instruments and various switches, and the gearbox is now connected. The gear shifter is there. If I put a gear knob on there, for the first time ever, I can actually, I think, pretend that I'm driving it. God, that clutch is heavy. I can't explain to you just how happy it makes me to be able to row through that gated gearbox. It's so exciting to think that at some point, hopefully reasonably soon, I'll actually be able to do this while the car is on the road. This reminds me that I'm going to have a bit of an issue with the driving position in this car, but we'll worry about that later. And we've had another little setback because the plug wires that came with the car don't fit. I mean, nothing fits on this car, but we're using a different distributor to what I think Jim planned. Well, there was no distributor with the car. So the Petronics, these don't fit. They need bigger connectors on the side. So I've ordered and I've got a new set, but they're sort of universal. You need to trim and cut them to size. Something I've never done before, but luckily John is a dab hander. And the original tool that came with them to strip the wire, I think was for a bigger gauge wire. And so it doesn't quite strip it all the way around. So we ended up doing it manually. The whole thing was pretty tricky. I think it took us about 3 hours from start to finish. But I'm really happy with the end result. So the plug leads are done and they're all connected up. Okay, and this, unbelievably, this is the moment of truth. It is ready to try and be cranked up. So the exhausts aren't on either, so essentially it's just the downpipes, but we're only going to run it for a couple of minutes. Everything's done, it's primed, so fuel's in the carb, fuel pump is working, oil pressure went up, so we cranked it over until the oil pressure came up. So I am incredibly excited and also just scared shitless that this thing's going to blow up. Seriously, I think I'm more scared than excited, but let's give it a go. I'm absolutely shitting myself. Do I go?
Yep.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. It's not going to blow out my windows, is it? With the... Wow, it fired up straight away. I absolutely can't believe it. I am so over the moon. One thing is, it did start to misfire after about 15-20 seconds, which is slightly worrying, but we'll deal with that a little bit later. We've had 3.5 days here, almost 4 days to be quite honest, and it's fought us all the way, honestly. They say it's normal, I don't believe it.
I think this is one of the more combative Panteras I've ever encountered.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, you know, my 308 was a doddle compared to this. It's just been such a nightmare.
But
so
I've got to defend the car. I mean, because it wasn't like we took the parts off and put it back on. These are all aftermarket parts that we're having to adjust to fit the car
and adapt.
Yeah.
It's
I get that. You know, we took it in bits. I didn't build it, so it's harder, and a lot of stuff is aftermarket, so none of it fits. I don't think I would ever have finished this car without them because I was getting so fed up with it, finding it so difficult. So guys, I cannot thank you enough. It boggles my mind that you came all the way from the US and you've spent 4 days here.
This is what
they enjoy this, apparently. Tell you, I don't enjoy it as much as they do.
This is what I call a vacation.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't want to leave. There's so much more left to do.
I know, but honestly, thank you so much. Really, thank you so much. So I'm getting emotional because A couple of days have passed now, and because of my OCD, the initial euphoria has gone and has been replaced with a nagging worry about the misfire. Could it be something serious? The engine, carb and distributor were all set up when it ran on the dyno, so I'm assuming it's something that we have done differently that is causing it. Since it runs fine for the first 15-20 seconds, my first thought is that it could be the coil. As it's heating up, it's failing, and I've temporarily rigged up a new one. Let's see if that's the issue. And no. The symptoms are exactly the same as before. The only thing I can think is that perhaps the wire we made up for the plugs have some kind of fault. I've rigged up plug lights to see if any aren't firing. All the plugs seem to be sparking, which is great in a way because it means that we didn't muck up those plug wires, but disappointing in another way because I really was hoping that that would be something that I could look at. However, I've just come off the phone with Mike Miller from the DeTomaso Club, and he is 100% certain that he knows what the issue is, and it does make sense. Now, I don't know these American carbs very well, but this has an electric choke on it. Now, I didn't think to connect it up, neither did the guys. I would have assumed that if you don't connect up the choke, then it just stays open, it doesn't go on. But that's not the case with these carbs. If you don't connect it up or find a way of jerry-rigging it so it stays open, it's always closed. Now that would explain why it starts up really well, running on all cylinders, but within 15 to 20 seconds, as it's warming up, it starts to splutter and misfire. So what I've done is I've jerry-rigged up a contact to the choke. We'll give it a go again, and fingers crossed that it's now finally running perfectly. I'm so happy that it's running, and it's running so well. Obviously I can't run it for too long because basically no exhaust, so I'm going to piss off the neighbours. This whole garage is running full of fumes, but this means there's still a lot of small things to do, but in theory it's kind of ready to go now. Everything's connected, so for the next video I think I'll actually be able to drive it. I've applied for registration in the UK, and that should be coming within 2 to 3 weeks. In the meantime, I'm going to sort out those exhausts and do a few other bits. Now, if you've enjoyed this, do check out, and you're interested, check out the original video when I went to Oklahoma to find this car. See the owner who sold it to me, where it was, the condition it was in, all the stuff that came with it. Thank you so much for watching. Look forward to seeing you for the next one when I'll be driving it.